Hello and welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I'm your host, Dennis Bithoulkas, and it's time for the final episode of the season, anyway, the season finale for Lovecraft Country, Season 1, Episode 10, Full Circle. So before I get started, let me take care of some business first, and then we will get to it. If you like what you see here, like, share, and subscribe. If you're still on the fence about subscribing, take a look at the little video that pops up at the very end here. Basically, YouTube takes the algorithms of all the stuff you've been watching and tries to match it as best as possible. One of the videos, my vast video library, and pops it up there just for you. And if you like what you see there, hit that subscribe button down there too. If you want to know when I'm beyond live again next, you get the bell down below. It's a 50-50 chance of YouTube actually notifying you. Best thing to do is go to suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at the schedule I have up there. I change it out every week. And also, I have all the links to my social media on there. So Twitter, Instagram, Patreon. No tier sipping on the Patreon page because I'm waiting till I hit 1,000 subs. That's my goal, so that I can actually put stuff there for you guys to have if you're going to give me money. That's why I'm not taking any money as of yet. Also, let's see, what else do I have? I have the links to this YouTube channel, my Facebook page, and a Facebook group page for those of you who still have Facebook, where you guys can post stuff and chat amongst yourselves. So on my Facebook page, I actually post the news and stuff like that that's coming out during the week. And that's a great place to have it out there. Apple Crow says, I got started late, so I'm only about halfway through the episode. Oh, well. Oh, you're only halfway through too, Pen? Well, you probably don't want to be around then, because there are going to be spoilers. So speaking of which, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the episode, go away. Come on back. This will be an episode or a video, and you can come back and you can watch it then. And you can also comment down below in the comment section. So just so you know, there's a live chat section, which is during the live chat. And then there's a comment section down below the video. It's basically down below all the, the other videos that YouTube wants to promote down there. And then there's a comment section down there. It's a common mistake. It happens. But yeah. So spoiler alert. Wow. So first off, I'm just gonna say, not the best ending to the season, but not the worst ending either. Raised by Wolves. Yeah, it was an okay ending. There was some stuff in it that we'll get to it in a minute here. So, sorry, I'm just trying to see what the dog is doing, and she's doing something weird over on the bed. So, anyway, so basically we have D getting woken up by the curse. So essentially what happened was, is they have the Book of Names. Of course, they come back from 1921. They come back from the observatory. So essentially we come right in after episode 9, and Hippolyta, Montrose, Tick, and Letty all have the book. They come in, they put D down on the bed, and Tick says the words in order to open up the book. And as soon as they do that, he and Letty both pass out. And we find out that what Hannah, his great grandmother, did is she took basically when she took the Book of Names, she created she was creating her own spells, basically to block Titus from ever finding the family ever again. That's what the birthmark is. So the birthmark is actually a hiding spell, if you will, to hide the family from any other magic seekers, so they can't find the book. The second thing is because of her rage, she was trying to create an ancestral space for the her descendants to use the book, and if they needed to. But her rage had kind of taken over and created that space that they are in. That's what they were going into. It was called the ancestral space, where they can learn how to use the book. In the meantime, so Tick is learning this from Hannah. Letty, in the meantime, is talking to Hattie, which she watched burn in the last episode. And Hattie basically says that, you're now the keeper of the book. And Letty's like, oh, no, fuck that. I don't want that. And she goes, too bad. It's yours now. She teaches her how to read the book, essentially, for the tongue, basically to use the I guess you could say the Sons of Adam language. That's what it kept saying in the subtitles. They kept saying the language of the Sons of Adam, which I don't think was right. It's supposed to be the language of the book because the book was written before the Sons of Adam. But anyway, um, so Hattie actually ends up reading a spell over the empty bed where they are, because they're actually in the apartment in the ancestral space, where Dee is actually in the bed in the apartment in real time, I guess you could say. And she essentially cures Dee of the curse, everything except for her arm, which got clawed, her left arm, which got clawed up by the demon, one of the demons that got Dee. And Dee wakes up screaming, of course, at this point. And then Tick and Letty both wake up too. And so what they basically have is they've got a couple of days until the autumnal equinox where, Tick has to give up his life for Christina. And they are trying to find a way to stop this, of course. And they want to use the book to create a counter spell, if you will. And Christina at one point actually walks in when they are planning all of this and says, "I know you have the book." Uh, so what happened was Letty and Tick actually bring the book down to the catacombs where Titus has his vault, and they actually conjure up Titus, and Tick is able to cut out a piece of Titus because he needs it for the spell, of course. And Titus escapes at one point and actually warns Christina that they've got the book, so that's how she knows about this. And once Tick has a piece of Titus there, they dissipate Titus, they dissipate Hattie, they dissipate Hannah, and also Tick's mom, because he meets Tick's mom. Tick meets his mom in the ancestral space as well. So I guess if you're all of this bloodline, when you die, you go to the ancestral space instead of whatever happens after you die. So yeah, it was kind of a weird thing, but I was along with it. I was on board with this. So it turns out that what he needs is ancestral, I guess. Not well. He needs the flesh of the people that are creating the spell in order to counteract the spell. Yeah. I wonder about that too, Jay Hicks, how season 2 is going to play out. So this whole thing with Tick sacrificing himself, and his mom basically says, "You know what? You sometimes don't have the choice of what you want to do," is what she says. She goes, "I didn't have that choice with Montrose and George," is what she says. And that was kind of where I got thrown off a little bit, was this whole thing of you're destined to do this. That was kind of one of those things I was like, huh? Because yeah, that didn't sit well with me on that one. But and she says you have to sacrifice yourself for the greater good of everyone, is what she was saying. And I wasn't getting where they were going with this until the end. But because of course we weren't privy to all of this until the very end. Long story short, we end up Ruby gets brought into this as well. Letty is trying to get her to get a piece of Christina so they could use for the spell. And Ruby basically tells her, because they're having a conversation about family at one point. And Ruby says, "You've been doing family wrong all this time and you're still doing it wrong. Basically, the only time you want to talk to me is when you need something." And but she is going to follow through anyway, and comes up with a vial of Christina's, nail clippings, hair, and whatnot, the stuff that she uses in order to transform into William. And she gives that to Ruby gives that to Letty when everyone's going out to Artem. So, yeah, and Hippolyta, by the way, is also, she's lived many lifetimes in many different worlds and all this kind of stuff. And she explains to Dee as well that the reason why she was missing was she became Orinthia blue. which is Dee's creation, her comic book creation. And also she had to name herself, and she named herself Mother. So we finally find out what her final name was Mother. That's what she named herself. And that's why she came back. And Dee's like, you know what? You still weren't here, and there was nothing you could have done anyway, is what Dee basically tells her, and turns her back on her. And I'm just like, fuck, man, that's kind of harsh. So there's a couple of things that disjointed me in this episode, like I said. Having that pulling away, I guess you could say. The whole destiny thing, that you have no control over your life, that you're predestined to do things. This whole thing where Dee basically turns on her mother, and there's something still up with Dee too, by the way, at the end of all of this too. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's something. And so when everyone goes out to Artem, Ruby comes too. And so it's Ruby, Gia, because Tick contacts Gia and says, hey, you know what? I was really harsh to you. You're actually family. You should come with us because we need you, kind of thing. And so they all go out to Artem, and they're riding in the car. And when they get to Artem, Tick basically eats Titus's flesh, drinks Christina's blood, kind of thing, and goes off to meet his fate, if you will, while the others are setting up spells. They're actually putting symbols. They're creating a triangle in Artem. Well, it turns out that Ruby is not Ruby, that Christina caught her trying to steal the vial and killed Ruby, and then took on her form. And she tells Letty this, of course. And by the way, Christina had removed the mark of Cain from Letty as well. And so she's now vulnerable, and they're fighting it out. And on the bridge, Montrose and Hippolyta and Gia are fighting the townsfolk that are coming in too. And Hippolyta is fucking kicking some ass, which was nice. All the moves she learned, but she gets overwhelmed. Everyone gets overwhelmed. And Letty gets thrown from the tower and dies, supposedly, right? Well, Christina goes and does the spell, becomes immortal. And Letty wakes up, comes back, and is trying to create a spell, but not Montrose, but Hippolyta says their bodies need to be joined. So Tick and Christina's bodies need to be connected somehow. And this is where Gia steps in. And Gia uses her tails to connect Christina and Atticus as this vortex is happening, and as Letty is doing the spell. And of course, it strips Christina of her immortality. But there's also a catch to it too, is that as Christina is lying underneath some stones in Artem and looking pretty beat up, Letty tells her that she has bound her from magic, but not just her, all white people. So no white people can use magic ever again. That's what she's done, is she's bound them from that. Yeah, so I mean, that's one big revelation right there, is that now white people cannot use magic. It's only black people. And I don't know if it's her family now, if Letty just let it to her family, or if it's all black people. I don't know. So that was kind of an interesting thing. And then also Dee ends up meeting Atticus's Shoggoth. She's out in the woody by herself at night. She's the last one left out there. And the Shoggoths that were protecting Artem out there start ripping into the woody. I mean, that woody's gone through hell, quite honestly. And Tick's Shoggoth shows up and takes care of them. And who shows up but Dee at the very end? And she sees Christina buried underneath, these stones, and no one else is out there. And she walks up with the Shoggoth, and Christina is asking for help. And Dee takes off her jacket, and we see her left arm is now a mechanical arm. Her mother has given her a mechanical arm to help her draw. And she squeezes the shit out of Christina's neck and pops it, essentially. And the Shoggoth goes up and howls at the moon, and that's where we end off on the episode. something's up definitely with Christina. And Tick is dead, by the way, too. So Tick is dead. He's not coming back in this incarnation, at least. And he left a note for Montrose saying that he had one last secret, and that was the secret was that he knew he was going to die, but he needed to do it so that they could, of course, close the book on magic, if you will, for white people using that. So, yeah, so they can never be enslaved again by it. Joker says now she's the girl in the future with the robot arm. We don't know that for sure, Joe Greer. And that was a different Earth, too. That was Earth 501, as Hippolytus says. So that was a different Earth altogether. So, yeah, that's how we kind of left off on this. I mean, Gia's still alive. Nothing happened to her. I was kind of I was kind of thinking, I wasn't hoping, I was thinking that she was going to sacrifice herself in order to save Tick's life. But no, she actually she didn't sacrifice herself. She actually is the conduit in order to make the plan work. And George is still dead too. I kind of figured George was going to come back at some point in this series, but I guess not. Dee's got the fucked up, arm now. Well, now she's got the new robot arm, but something is off with Dee. Like I said, something is really off. I don't know what it is, and maybe we're going to explore that in season 2, which I hope there's a season 2 for this. It's a great series. Letty, did the baby survive? We don't know if the baby survived that fall. Well, obviously it must have, because we know the future. Well, did Tick actually show up in the future in that Earth, or did he show up in a different Earth's future? We don't know. Again, that's the whole mystery of the machine. That's not the observatory. Is it's all different Earths, and like she said, you had to actually tune it to the right frequency and concentrate on the Earth that you wanted. Otherwise, you ended up in a different place. So, yeah, and I mean, I was thinking about this. I was like, can Hippolyta use the machine to pull Tick and George out of time, into the current time that they are in? And I'm like, no, she can't. Not from their Earth anyway. Because if she does that, then she fucks up their timeline. But she could do it from another Earth and pull two different, Tick and George from those timelines, from alternate timelines, and bring them in. And I don't know if that's going to work either. So, yeah, we have some questions for season 2. I mean, I know that this has already diverged from the book. I've heard this. I haven't read the book. But I heard that Misha Green had kind of, really diverted from the book at this point. And honestly, it's a good series. It's a good, like I said, the ending for me was just kind of a little bit of a letdown because we didn't have, well, of course, Tick dies. And I really like Jonathan Majors. I really, really do. Great actor. I had forgot that he was in the movie The Last Man in San Francisco. I didn't recognize him from, yeah, I think that was like one of his first movies that he was in. But yeah, I just didn't recognize him. It wasn't clicking for me in my brain. And yeah, I mean, Courtney B. Vance as well as George. I want him to come back. I like those characters. I really do. And, you kind of thought that Montrose was going to die at some point in time because of how abhorrent a character he actually is and the stuff that he was doing to kind of counteract what they were trying to do. And no, he kind of leaves them. And Tick even says in his letter, he says to Montrose, he goes, raise little George, which is his son, of course. And this is your second chance at becoming the father that you wanted to be, he said. Show him love and and show him different things is what he basically says. And even his mother, was it his mother? Yes, his mother actually says to Tick when they're in the ancestral space, she says, you've got Montrose's fire and you've got George's heart and and sensibility. And it's the best of both worlds on that. And so he's kind of trying to hedge his bets on making little George George Jr. Let's just call him George Jr. Well, he's not really a junior, so yeah, little George. So he wants to make him as best a person as possible, but I think he's kind of relying on the wrong person to do that, to tell you the truth. Um, but yeah, anyway, I'm digressing off of this. Season two. Hopefully, there's a season two on this, and we haven't heard anything as of yet. But HBO Max should be fucking doing that because they've already greenlit that piece of shit Raised by Wolves, which I'm not covering season two on that shit. So yeah, you would think that they would move along on this one a little bit more. So, what everyone else think? I know I got 11 viewers in here. I know some of you haven't finished the episode as of yet, and hopefully you guys have taken off already. And I kind of went through it as slapdash as possible, and still giving my insight to some of the stuff in there. Yeah, the whole thing, I kind of thought Ruby might have been Christina at one point. I was like, "Yeah, that's gonna happen," and then I was kind of a little bit surprised by that. So I was cut off guard on that one. Joker says, not the best ending, but progresses the storyline. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it's another major death. That whole scene with Christina slashing Tick's arms, here on both sides, and then bleeding in the blood I was like, whoa. I almost used that as a thumbnail. And I was like, yeah, it'll probably get censored because, it's a little bit on the gory side. So I tried to pick something that was not spoilerish. You can't really tell whose head is down below there with the blood splatter. You also can't see Dee's mechanical arm, but you do see the Shogoth. So just enough there for viewers to come in on if they haven't seen it as of yet. Thank you. To Dawson68 Dawson. Thank you for watching, and come on back for other stuff. I am gonna probably be doing Hellstrom on Fridays now. Starting with this coming up Friday. I'm gonna do season episodes 1 and 2 since that's gonna be released now. Just in the interim until Mandalorian starts on the 30th, and then I'll move that over to a different day on that one. Probably Sundays, most likely as well. I'll move Hellstrom. But yeah, the Mandalorian's coming out. Truth Seekers is coming out. I'm trying to think of what else. That's just the current stuff that's coming out right now. So, but what's coming up this week? Tomorrow, I'm going to be off. Tuesday is going to be another episode of Is It Worth My Time? And this time around, it's going to be Terminator Dark Fate is what it's going to be. Yeah, it's available now on Amazon Prime, and that was pretty much the only way I was going to watch it. I wasn't going to pay money in the theater for it. So there you go. We're going to do that. Wednesday, I'm going to be off. Thursday is going to be another episode of Is It Worth My Time? I don't know what I'm doing as of yet for that one. I might do another throwback series. I might do Briscoe County Jr. because I have been watching that recently, and there's a way of getting it for free right now. And I didn't know that. I actually forgot that Carlton Hughes was one of the writers and one of the creators for Briscoe County Jr. He's the guy who's working right now on oh god, what is it? The Tom Clancy series, the one with John Krasinski in it, on Amazon. So he's working on that, and I think he's also working on the Jack Reacher series that they're going to do too. So he's doing both of those. So you think do Briscoe on that one? Apple Crow says, curious as to where this ending will go in a new season. They're uncharted territory here, Apple Crow. Like I said, they've already diverged from the book. I believe it was after episode 4 they've diverged from the book. So yeah, it's from what I've heard. And yeah, if they've diverged that far from the book now, anything goes, quite honestly. I just hope we actually have a throughput story for season 2. I mean, it took a little while to find out what the throughput story was for this. I mean, it kind of started off a little rocky. You didn't know, okay, what's happening. If you go back and watch some of my earlier videos or, like episodes 1 and 2, and I'm going, where is this series going? I said, I like what I'm seeing, but I don't see a story. I don't see an overall story. And I don't think it was until episode 3 or 4 where it actually kind of jumped in and said, okay, here's what we're doing. And I was like, all right, I'm okay with that. So, yeah, hopefully, Misha Green as a showrunner there, does that. Yeah, sometimes it is a slow burn, and that's perfectly fine. Um, this one, like I said, I think it was episode 4 where it kind of kicked in for me on that one. And I was like, all right, I'm liking this series. And like I still hold by my initial statement that it's as good as Doom Patrol there. So it is in my uh it's in my top 5 for this year of series, definitely. And I would even say it's in my top 3, maybe even my top 2. So yeah. I just like it because again, I've read a lot of pulp sci-fi. I've read a lot of pulp horror and stuff like that. And this series is probably the one that best captures all that kind of pulpiness, if you will, and doesn't do it in a slapdash manner, doesn't do it in a way that is kind of like an afterthought. It's actually thought out well and it's planned out well. I mean, other than the overall story plot in the first 3 episodes, that aside, uh the sci-fi, the horror aspect of it, uh also mixing in the history of it too, the racial history, and that works as well. I mean, as part of the horror element, and just the, not shying away from it either. um it all works. It really does, and it works well. So, hats off to Misha Green on that one. She did a great job on this series. And yeah, hopefully there's a season 2 out of this, Hopefully HBO Max execs actually realize they have something good here and that they follow through with it on that. Yeah. Because it would be a shame if they dump it and keep that fucking Raised by Wolves. Yeah. I'm sorry, but it's just, I mean, it's another rehash of Aliens Raised by Wolves. It really is. I'm not, ugh, that's all I can say. I want something new, not something old and just rehashed ideas kind of cobblestone together. So, all right. It's probably late for you guys out on the East Coast. Not for me. So I'm going to let you guys go for the night. Thank you to everybody who joined me tonight in the chat. And thank you if you made it this far in the video. Um, remember, if you still haven't subscribed yet, take a look at the video that pops up at the very end here. And if you like what you see there, hit that subscribe button down below here. And while you're down there, hit that like button and the share button as well. Yeah, do both of those. And if you want to know when I'm be on live again next, you can hit the bell down below. It's a 50-50 chance of YouTube actually notifying you. Best thing to do is go to suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at the schedule that's up there. And also all the links to my social media. I actually just retweeted something out today that was kind of interesting on the Batman. And it's also on my Facebook page, which I have the link to on Suspended Fanimation as well. And there's also a Facebook group page where you guys can post stuff and chat amongst yourselves. All right. Yeah. And as Penn says, hit that like button before you go. Please. Yes. It's always good to have manners. Please and thank you. You motherfuckers. No. Sorry. It's a reflexive on that one. Thanks, everybody. I will see you again on Tuesday for Is It Worth My Time? Terminator Dark Fate. Until then, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may pop through a wormhole that takes you over to Earth 501, and you end up getting some kind of implant in your arm because you need to find out who you are and name yourself, and takes you to faraway distant galaxies and different worlds, and you get to live different lives. And actually, it doesn't sound that bad, but still, it could be. Thanks, everybody. I will see you again on Tuesday. Have a good night. Take care, be well, and stay safe. Good night, everyone.